Uh,
Now. Okay, yes, call the meeting to order. 6:30. And we do have a quorum.
Can I do roll call?
Yes.
All right, Michael DiLorenzo asked to be excused. Thomas Heisler.
Here.
Guy Hoffman.
Here.
Carl Lewis.
Here.
Karen Pagliaro asked to be excused. Mary Catherine DeRose. Here. Robert Ramsey. And alternate Peter Zaragoza. Absent. So we have a quorum with 4.
Good. Anybody on Zoom, and there's nobody here for audience and citizens. So move on to approval of minutes.
So I had a number of modifications.
Okay.
I can list those out. So on page 1, next to staff present, next to my name, it should note that I left for another meeting after the technical issues were resolved at the time. And next to both Dylan and Jim's name, it should say remote, parentheses. And any, I didn't get to double check the tape, but any other members that were remote, it should also say remote. I was remote. You were remote, yeah, I have. Was remote. And on page 2, the second paragraph says staging, it should be station. I don't have them in front of me, so I can correct them. And I can get those to you. Okay, I have them.
And I can entertain a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Correct. So, do we want to? We have Jim with us, so do we want to make a motion to move to the use of town lands?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Carl.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Trails and open space. Jim.
Okay, so yeah, the signage, we got the authorization from the commission last time. We're kind of engaging Steve Wood on some of these issues. We pretty much have it worked out. So we need to, he's going to give us a little feedback on a couple of things, and then we'll order the signs. So hopefully, I think, we'll get signed for the new property. We'll get, the Amelia Green, the signs that we've been talking about forever. And, probably be able to get one, like us, kind of a major sign for one of the open space areas that doesn't have it now. And we'll see how much money we have left to get small signs. So, and Steve said,
question after you're done. I'm sorry, after you're done, Jim.
No, I was just going to say Steve Wood said he would do posts for us if we want. So in some cases we might get him to do posts. So I think on that new piece on Reservoir Road, Maureen and I and Dylan had been going around on the language to put on the sign, but I think our intention would be to probably do 2 signs on one post, so that initially there's no trail access there, but there will be trail access. So we'll kind of have a generic sign to start with, and then supplement it when we get Carl out there to figure out the rest of the trail.
Yeah. So I did a little bit of an inventory of stuff, and now we're we've really done a good job. I know maybe this was 10 years ago, maybe it was 5, you know, we talked about signing stuff and having our kind of imprint on it. And I think we've done a really good job. If you drive around to our open space properties, a lot of them have that big green sign, right? Which I think is wonderful and does exactly what we wanted it to. So I know you asked me a couple months ago to look at it. So I'm just wondering, you know, in the future, I know we have property at the top of Linden where it gets ATV use for sure, but we could probably put something there. We also, I forgot that we had something on the top of Summitwood, but we do have, the sign is kind of a little beat up, but we have something there. You know, we have the Soapbox Derby Road on Chamberlain Highway, which I'm not sure we want to do anything with because there's limited access and it's not really a parking area. But, you know, right next to what they used to call Blue Ridge Farm across from Prince of Peace. We have a trailhead supposedly at Norton Road, just west of where, for those of you who've been in town for a while, Lions Pool used to be, right? We have Kensington Road egress. And again, let me just, yes, I will submit this to you for sure.
No, just when you talk about the Norton Road one at the Lions Pool, did you find a sign there or not? Because
No, these are places that admittedly, I mean, we're going after diminishing returns here. I don't know that
I thought there had been one there at one time because I remember inspecting it for that subdivision. So I think it disappeared. So
sorry. I'm not sure about the Norton Road, Jim. The Norton Road would be just up the hill. Okay. And that's not a subdivision thing, right?
That wasn't a subdivision.
Where the Lions Pool was. Where the Lions Pool was.
Oh, okay. Maybe I don't know where that is.
They had to put specific signs there, so.
Okay.
Yeah. That was
a very narrow strip there now, right?
Right.
Yeah, right. So this is what I'm saying, you know, like, you know, I've been negligent in getting out there. So I did get out there this time, and I'm saying it's like diminishing returns. I think we have done a very good job at branding our spots, but there's there's a place that's on Cider Mill Road. There's a place on Parkview. Bicentennial Park itself, I'm not sure the Bicentennial Park, what they used to call the dog park there, does that have one of our signs on it? I don't know that it does.
Yeah, it's inside.
That's a big green sign.
Yeah.
Where inside? Yeah. Okay. And then I'm just thinking, yeah. So, and like I said, the Kensington Road, not the one that's near Orchard Road. There's another egress there, or whatever you want to call it. I call it egress, but there's another easement, I think is the correct word, that's towards Elton Road that anybody can walk on, and it's not open. So I'm just putting it out there. That's what I found when I did my short inventory. So
that's the old Sierra Ranch, right? Okay,
no,
I'm talking next to Chris Trolley's little subdivision there.
Correct, exactly.
There's a small sign.
Okay.
There's a small sign there, Carl.
Oh, there is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's probably all we need. Like I said, because on the other end of Cross Creek, there's nothing, and we don't need anything right now. Maybe if we can put some, I believe I went on record as saying that a couple of months ago. If we end up putting trails there, then we can put a big sign there. But why put a big sign somewhere where people can't really get in or there's really no parking?
Yeah, and that's I think you're really on money there with you know, like the signage. I think that we have done a really good job. You know, Jim, with you know, coming up with a design that we did and trying to do a brand, ended up being a really good idea, and I think we've done a good job with it. I think the next real challenge is I mentioned just a minute ago, it ends up being parking at some of these places. You know, and there's still the one that I still think that we need to do something with is the access to Blue Hills on Orchard Road. And I know that you know, that's probably got a price tag with it. Because got the barn and the buildings that are there, but that's a beautiful location to have a small parking lot and a nice access point for that area and the regular trail that goes through. So I'd love to see us be able to do something with that one.
I think, it's probably been mentioned before, but the signage for if and when the parking gets relocated for one that was on Vener Oaks property on Chamberlain Highway, when that gets developed and parking and signage for there, I think we should have a sign ready to go. There's more sales activity with regard to those parcels, that parcel again. So we're really hoping that gets executed pretty soon and maybe before the end of the fiscal year. So if we can include a sign for that in the package, I think that would be a good investment.
And I can't say this, I don't know. So I'm kind of speaking out of turn, but I know that Maureen, when you and I walked that property along with some other folks, Mr. Grimm talked about taking out some a bunch of stuff and then putting a parking lot in that was 3 or 4 cars, not too far from the highway. And I've noticed as I've driven past there that, and again, I don't know that this is, I haven't talked to him. Mr. Grimm seems to be a legitimate businessman and a good guy. He seems to have like bulldozed that out in preparation for just what we talked about, which is some parking there. Again, the legalities of changing that that easement are, you know, beyond my knowledge or pay grade.
Yeah, we're well underway. It's just the lawyers, rather the private lawyers actually getting the job done as opposed to the town having to engage our counsel to initiate it has been a delay. Just put it that way.
Okay.
And I think the person that owns the property that has the easement right now does not seem to be interested in facilitating it on their dime. That's my take. It's just my take, but that's what I find.
Is that Pierre or is Pierre sold?
No, he's the property with the hoop houses he sold. And they found out that it appears as though their intention for the property was not allowed by zoning, and therefore they're remarketing. And we have had interested parties. Okay.
But we still do have the easement through there, so.
Yeah, the easement there, it's just cooperation has been problematic.
And I could be mistaken because it's gone over a couple of years here, but I think we already have the signs for that parking lot.
Oh, okay.
And that Vital Signs holding on to them for us until we're ready to install.
Perfect.
Okay, I knew the ones accessing into the hoop house property had been destroyed, that had been there for, you know, every time they got put up, they seemed to disappear. So I didn't realize we got it. That's great.
Right. Well, that's great. And that's just to remind people that was the money from the rest of the education budget from the Conservation Commission. So and we'll have more for the following year, hopefully. So it's a good thing to be thinking this way and having a list and having ideas so that we're ready to put our input. So
I do have another staff observation on signs. Mm-hmm. I know that most of the conversation here has centered around having signs and access points. And like Jim and I discussed, you know, when we're talking about the new sign on Reservoir Road, it doesn't currently have an access point, but having a sign there that says it is the town of Berlin's property. I don't think it would be wasted to sign some of those access, I'll call them access points, even though they aren't access points, aren't developed with a trail, so that neighbors don't encroach on what was left as potential trail access to open space that's behind subdivisions. We have, most subdivisions, when they dedicated open space, there were a couple of legs left out to the road so that you could have the potential for getting access in there and create linkages, even if they're just walking linkages without parking. And I think it would, I would encourage the Conservation Commission to consider putting up signs that it's town property, regardless of whether there's parking and access at some of those points.
I agree.
No access to open space or anything, but it could be a sign that acknowledges that it's the town's property.
I agree. We've always, I think, if I can go back, and Guy, you can correct me on this, but it's always been kind of that we've not had consensus about who's going to go do that, who's going to do the survey, and we've also had problems with folks. And I don't mean to be crass, but people have taken these signs and thrown them in the brook. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now I know that we've changed the style of signs, and and had bigger ones, or even if they're the small ones, smaller in size, that have a little bit of information on them. We probably still have a supply of those 4x4.
No, we don't. Those don't exist any longer. They've deteriorated quickly and were determined not to be worth putting. They weren't a quality material.
Okay, because we had them here in the drawer.
Yeah.
And I had a stack of them at my house, so.
Yeah, I had to look for
okay.
Other staff decided they were not. Okay. Quality materials.
But that was part of the idea back then of actually trying to put some up as boundaries. And then we did run into some of the problem of wanting to have somebody from the town actually tell us that, putting them up in the right spot. And then that got to be kind of problematic, I think. So
I can work with engineering at the times we find, and some of that may even be when they've had to go out to determine where a property line is anyway, and then they just have it because they have it because they're actually determining the property line. There was recently a section of town where we did area abutting open space where with a dispute with a homeowner, it was surveyed, and we potentially could have used signs like that.
Yeah, because I think that it's probably more prevalent than I like to think, but my experience has been that there's probably in a lot of these places like that homeowners have moved over to whether they know where the property line is or they don't,
or they sell the house and
I don't know if they're all worth going through and surveying and trying to
that's probably out of the budget.
10 or 15 feet back, but I think that it's out there, and certainly if staff is it's out there for another reason and surveying, that's a great idea to have those put up, because those work better than trying to take care of it later on.
Yeah, restoration is problematic.
Yeah.
So just so everybody knows, that anybody who's, I think you've all been around long enough to know, but for any new subdivision, before they get their COs, they have to have the signs up. But again, the transfer of property, some private property owner moves in, they may or may not remain, and we can't go on their land to determine that without going through one of the access points to find out, or if we get it. yeah, respecting the limits. So, and that's at the point where it would be nice to have a couple in our pocket that we could just go, boom, nope. And
Yeah, going back to that discussion that we had, I think it's Hatchery Brook, just that upstream portion and north. You know, I think some of the markers have been removed. And then there is some encroachment there on the other side. Okay. Encroachment in the sense of going beyond.
Right, we
into
discussed that at the meeting probably 6 months ago.
Okay.
Probably, I think,
Yeah.
I think you. So, again, one more spot.
Yeah, because you know I had an example of you know the importance I think of the signage too. It's from a number of years ago now, but you know that one of the neighbors said, "Oh yeah, we like going on this area because you know," and the person over there, we know, they you know, and they it's good that they let us, you know, they let us on. Going like it's town land, you know, they don't really, but people don't always know, and it's good just to have a small sign there or something, even for, like you said, access may not be a parking area, but still in a neighborhood, and people know that, you know, that they don't need somebody's permission to take that walk.
Want to encourage walking.
Yeah.
Not to beat the sign topic to death, but the other thing we recognize is that the website address on some of the signs is the old website address, and it still does work. But we did talk to Vital Signs, and they can do stickers that we can stick over. We can also do QR codes to link to maps. So we're gonna, you know, we'll factor that in to this round and in the future.
So we don't need entirely new signs, we can retrofit old signs.
Right.
Perfect. Well, that was A. I think, anybody else have anything else to add on it? No. Back to you, Jim, as far as what you could share with us.
Okay. So Wigwam Road, as you know, we asked to relocate the right of way because part of it's submerged, and Carl was good enough to go out and help with the investigation and GPS a path, and came up with a route that we could use to get from Sanctuary Lane, you know, Reservoir Road, Sanctuary Lane, Wigwam Road right away relocated out to Timberland, out to Ragged Mountain. So we went through the process, had to do the 824, et cetera. Then we sent a letter to New Britain, and they said yes. So they're willing to work with us on the relocation. So now I'm working with Corporation Council to you know, develop something for the land records, and then we'll run that by New Britain because we'd like to get it recorded so that there's some, you know, continuity in that. And that's another, so that'll be another trail and project to be developed in the future. So if you want to move on, then you know, we did got some comments from some abutters of Bicentennial and Hatchery Brook, Catherine Chaskis, Heidi Brierly, et cetera. And I think you all have seen things in terms of vandalism out at the properties. And you know, we know that, you know, vandalism is happening in other parks and recreation. I guess did a spot we learned you know, on some of the, like I think it was Sage Park, Maureen, I can't remember, but and then we saw, and Newington just was doing some press releases on this. So this seems to be something that's becoming more of an issue, and so just wanted to bring it up and try to, you know, look for ways to nip it in the bud if we can. Get it, you know, we're not going to get ahead of it; we're behind it already. But you know, whether it's and we have talked about, doing a press release or, trying to, then just the whole, in the next discussion item is, this trail managers and, like in a sense, like a block watch for parks. I mean, those are things that I don't know, how effective they would be, but we could try to employ them. And we did have trail managers that, again, going back to ancient history here, we had contracted, if anybody remembers, with Connecticut Forest and Park Association to run hikes in our open space areas quite a few years ago. So they had provided a kind of an interpretive guide, and we had some hikes, and we had some people that were participating, were enthusiastic, and they volunteered to be, trail managers for the sections, like Connecticut Forest and Park has for all their trail sections. But then, then everybody kind of resigned their commissions after a while. So whether that,
so can I ask Jim, what were some of, I don't know the other person that you mentioned, but I know Heidi. What were her specific concerns? I haven't seen any allegations about trail vandalism, and I have been out there a bit over the last few months. I know that we've had some ATV abuse for sure.
Yes.
We documented, we put that on the record a couple of months ago, I think.
Right.
I haven't seen a whole lot of other stuff.
Yeah, they were talking about defacing signs, remove. We had the tree identification trail that Heidi did, and people are removing the signs. I guess it sounds like I didn't hear exactly what, but somebody in terms of defacing the signs kind of must have had some vulgar graffiti someplace and things like that. So, and then, we've had the problems of, I guess, people, kind of in the past, creating their own trails and marking them, or, diverting the trails that we already have out there, things like that. So, we have those are the things I know about.
Okay. Yes. Thanks. I was aware of some of that. I know that there's a newly blazed trail, for example. Somebody took a spray paint can and went from West Lane to the jumping cliffs. I mean, but there's realistically, I'm not sure what the Conservation Commission can do about some 15-year-old kid pulling out a trail interpretive sign or tree interpretive sign. So, I mean, we can say it's a bad thing, but I mean,
right.
Yeah,
and I guess the other thing, it's like the old, what do you do when there's graffiti, and one of the philosophies was you fix it, you remove the graffiti, you replace the sign so that it, try to keep on sending the message that, their graffiti is not going to stay there forever or whatever, so that's the battle we're fighting.
Yeah, with some of the, I did see some comments back and forth. It sounded like Steve Wood's not really big on signs specifically for that. Trying to put that up. I think that at kiosk you could put something up. Most of them have, a place to put something. I think the big, maybe one of the better things that we can do is, with coordinating with the police or something, and get a number out that's accessible, like visual, for when they're on going out onto the trail. If you see something, to call in.
I completely agree, Guy. And I don't know, Guy, or members of the commission, or Jim, if you agree with me, but I think we've seen, and I'm knocking on wood here, we've seen remarkably little of this sort of activity, especially at Bicentennials / Hatchery Brook. I haven't seen, I mean, I'm out there, every few days, and I'm more worried about erosion than I am about graffiti, really, or really, like any sort of antisocial behavior. I'm done. I'll stop talking now.
No, that's then I think Jim, you're right that, you know, whether it's us or, you know, town in general, it does have a responsibility to try to take care of things that are, you know, spray painted over, or, you know, any kind of things like that. And I think that, you know, having some kind of volunteers out there is not a bad idea. I mean, that's something that was still a bit in place when I started on the commission. They call them land care volunteers.
Who would be notified here? Go to the police or
yeah, I mean, I from what I gather, the police would be at least willing to accept those calls in on that, right? Potentially, or
so I would think it's a vandalism call, and so the police is the one that would have the authority.
I'm just thinking it's a good idea to have a number, because it makes people feel that they can do something.
Yeah.
But is that who would contact the police?
So we of course check with the chief and find out number call as opposed to possibly not.
Even if we could get stickers to put on a kiosk,
just something like that.
Notice vandalism, please call this number.
Yeah. So we need to coordinate with the police on that again.
Alternatively, if they say no, that is
right,
because you're the conservation commissions.
Right.
But really, your volunteers would be people that are using these areas and enjoying them anyway.
Right. And that's
so maybe just the fact that you have something there that says, if you see something, say, you know, something like that, and then you're out there and you see that and there's a number to call, and then you do it, because I don't know if you're going to get like a sign, you know, people that are going to be willing to say, I'm going to go out there on Saturday morning. Or is that what you're talking about? Like,
no, they wouldn't necessarily have to. The old program, there are people that hike it on a fairly regular basis. Right. The idea back then was, and there was a form for them to fill out, and the idea was actually for them to from having a one person come in and present something once a year to the commission and say, like, what have you been seeing? So it's not what, you know, it could work on a shorter term basis, but it would also be, you know, like Carl said, you know, well, we're starting to see more erosion, we're seeing something, you know, what are you seeing? You know, in general, are you seeing a lot of trash? You know, what's happening on particular trails? And we've talked about it a few times over the last 20-something years to try to maybe reconnect with that, because it's, you know, it's got some pluses to it, but I mean, I think we'd have to
I think if you ever did something like that, it'd have to be, you know, for liability purposes, somebody who knows you're not going to confront somebody.
No, you can't.
You know what I mean? It's like,
I think that
I wouldn't even make the call in front of him. It's like somebody's walking around and he sees somebody doing graffiti, go home, have a snack, and then call the police, because you know, people are crazy, man.
Yeah, I don't necessarily like the idea of, you know, like, yeah, that you can't have them be like the people that are, you know, are gonna.
They're not policing it.
They're not policing it.
They're not policing it. They're reporting.
They're
right.
reporting.
They're
the ones that could report, you know, something that's happened out on a certain trail. And I think there's value in that. I think we would have to look at like what we had before, give them some kind of checklist if we were to do that. And then it's going to take a bit, because you want to, you know, you have to see what places you think we would like to target. And then you have to actually see if there are people that like to hike that would accept that. You know?
Could that go on the town website? Could there be like something that we could put on the town website for conservation, that we're seeking people who frequently,
Yeah.
enjoy certain areas, and we would, target those areas,
Right.
and then to contact
And then,
us,
yeah,
somebody.
and then, we're looking to have some kind of, periodic
Right.
reporting on what you're seeing out on the trail. Right.
Yeah, it has to be worded.
Yeah, and that's it.
Like you
I
said,
mean,
just see
it's not,
somebody out there, they'll have their own makeshift badge.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for that reason, I'm really.
Yeah, right.
Rob, that's exactly what I was thinking. And Rob, for that reason, if we had a motion, I would just say, I would vote against a motion to do something like that. I think, I think that Heidi and her other compatriot who are doing us a service, bringing it to our attention, like a lot of us get out on the trails and we pretty much know what's going on. I'm not sure I want to deputize anybody to.
No,
if somebody wants to make water bars on the trail because we got erosion, I'm good with that. But if you want to have somebody who's out there like observing stuff, I'm just not sure that we're gonna.
No,
like who's who's gonna say somebody's dog, they didn't clean up after their dog. I'm just not really that interested in us endorsing that idea.
Right.
Now I will really.
Yeah, my interest in it is more of getting report back from people that are using the trails, what they're seeing.
What they're seeing.
And it's really more of a long-term kind of thing rather than like an event. Oh, here's who I saw, doing this, What I would say for now, I could bring in the old paperwork and what we did with the other one, and we can mull this over a little bit and see what we think at a future meeting for if we want to go this way and how we would craft
there probably
the
are
design for it.
There probably are some trails here in town. CLPA is it has responsibility for, right? So I guess if we could tease out those trails that are not in the network, that would be good.
Yeah.
I think that it was like the Land Trust and I think the Rotary were going to do kind of a volunteer project. They were looking for ideas on trails. Tom, I don't know where that has gone, but I gave him a couple ideas. But I said,
under active consideration by the Berlin Land Trust.
Okay, sorry again. Say again.
I said I think it's under active consideration with the Berlin Land Trust.
Right. So yeah, I mean, one of the things that I was saying is just do with them, if they're going to do a day thing, or one of the things they could do is just go out and, hike all the trails and assess them. I mean, down trees, brushing, do a little trash cleanup if necessary, stuff like that. That would be, like a CFPA trail manager for a section might do things like that. So, and just, like, as Carl said, obviously I'm not there, so I'm not walking all these trails, but, to have some kind of a documentation of what's going on out there and making sure that everything's in good shape is really a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've always felt that, like some kind of volunteer feedback is good from people that are actually using the trail.
Maybe see what the Land Trust is considering and maybe work in conjunction so that it's consistent with what they might be planning to do or are doing. Add something.
Yeah,
I think if they were going to do like a trail day, so if you get a bunch of people out there between the organizations, that would be people that you could recruit to do some other things if they were interested. So just throw it could be good to get a list of names at a minimum,
Good. Anything else that was, I think, stuff on your list there?
right? Unless Maureen's gonna handle the POCD stuff, or
Oh, that's right. Let's because I don't, we're doing use of town lands, we can jump over the garden stuff, and then yeah, so we can go to the POCD.
So I'll do just a quick update. The draft plan has been printed and distributed and posted, including distribution to the town council. We're required to provide it to the town council and post it, and to CROG, Capital Regional Council of Governance, at least 65 days before the Planning and Zoning Commission holds a public hearing on it. So that time clock has started. The town council has scheduled for a public hearing to hear a presentation on the draft, and then have a public hearing for comments on the draft at their May 18th meeting. So that's coming up. And then
April 18th.
April 18th. Why did I say May? I don't know why I said May.
So the public hearing is going to be on.
Thank you, Jim. See, I'm glad you're here. April 18th is the town council will be holding a public hearing. The required public hearing for the Planning and Zoning Commission to adopt the plan, to have prior to their adoption of the plan, is 65 days after it was distributed at minimum. So it's currently scheduled for June 15th. The draft includes an implementation plan, which will be the priorities, setting the priorities and responsibilities over the text, so that how the plan can be acted on over the next 10 years in order to accomplish some of the goals in the plan. So keep that in mind. It is posted on the website. I do have a limited number of print copies. If you would like a print copy, that would be read. And on the website, we also have links to some other documents, the backup, some of the backup materials that we can use throughout the process. But review it and provide your comments. You've got a public hearings, or you can send them to us. Jim and I would be the best way to get them disseminated back.
Maureen, is there more than one public hearing? You said there's going to be the town council public hearing.
Going to have a presentation by Nia, our consultant. And Jim, perhaps, we'll be there with the consultant, primarily by our consultant for the POCD. We'll do a presentation of what it is for the town council and that public hearing. The reason we asked the town council to hold a public hearing is so that we can get as much public input as possible. So it's an extra step, but it's also the town council needs to vote on the plan as well. So they have the opportunity to vote on the plan and then set their recommendation to and vote to the Planning and Zoning Commission, depending on the percentage that it carries by, depends on the percentage that the Planning and Zoning Commission that has to approve the plan as written, or whether modifications are made to it. And when they have their public hearing,
so they
have the required public hearing. Mandated public hearing is held by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
We don't know when that would be.
It is scheduled for June 15th.
Oh, that's the June 15th.
Right. So April 18th at Town Council.
Right.
Okay. June 15th at the Planning and Zoning Commission.
And then would they adopt it that night necessarily, or you don't know? The public hearing happens.
The public hearing happens. Neither one of them has to vote the same night as their public hearing. But they can. They can have discussions, they can make recommendations.
Thank you.
You have anything to add on the POCD, Jim, except correcting the date that I don't have any idea why I'm a month ahead of myself?
No, that's the summary. That's good. And I think that the implementation plan you all have seen before. There's been little tweaks here and there. I don't know if in this section or not, but take a look at it, and then if you have any other comments, as Maureen said, let us know.
To get a copy. I was going to say I was going to snag one and then I'll pass it along to Michael. And then I think anybody, if they have trouble online or like to see a hard copy that that's going to pass.
PDF out there.
Yeah, I assume so, right? It's online.
It is online.
As a PDF, so that it,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a PDF online, and then we printed the draft that got distributed to the town council and to Prague. So
yeah, I'd like to snag one of those.
I have a, you might have a covered sheet that I've got those dates. So and it says April 18th on my little cover sheet. I don't know why I said May. And that, so it says this right on it. So I'll make those copies before you guys leave so that you can take it.
Very good. All right. Yeah.
That's all I got. Thanks. Anybody
Okay.
have any questions for me?
Hang on for the rest, but
Thank you.
thank you for that. Yeah, quite a few things that at this meeting. So
Yeah, we're working.
for us to
There's-
think about for future meetings. So
Yes. All right. Have a good evening.
yes,
You too.
Bye.
Bye, Jim. Thanks. So I'm gonna real quick for those of you in the room. If you need me to share it, Carl, tell me, but I'm just gonna show everybody where the POCD is on the website. I hope. I think we actually put it in the spotlight. So let's see if it's actually there. That was wonderful. May not be there yet.
It's gonna be.
This is all about whether or not there's enough space on the page. So sometimes the budget is on the page. So first, don't think she put it in breaking. No, it's budget information on breaking. So under the department, under departments, planning and zoning has plan of conservation and development underneath it. It's also on the town council distribution page, or should be. It was for last week's meeting. So there's the meetings. You probably have a few more meetings to upload and the document. So I was told it was there the other day. So I'm gonna have to, oh, there. That's the 2013. Not there. Okay, I'm gonna ask the town clerk.
right up on the
on the-
upper right, 2023 POC.
There we go. Hopefully.
Yep.
Let's see if it uploads.
I think it's down there.
No, it's just back to that same page. I'm gonna have to find out where she put it. And she might have just put it on the town council page. She might not have put it on this page. So that's the problem. Sometimes I had it last week. Found it. Oh. Failing today. So I'm getting Xing out.
Right.
I'm sorry.
So we'll have to, yeah.
But I will tweak it and find it and make sure it's there tomorrow or Thursday. Man, I'm getting one for tomorrow. Can we go to the community garden as long as we're in town lands?
Yep.
So the thing I really wanted to discuss about the community garden was confirmation that town groups, i.e. social services department, they currently have a plot at the garden. When the senior center has one, the other town entities, not nonprofit groups, but town entities have garden plots that they are not charged. And I just want confirmation of that. Just so you know, the social services works with Upbeat and the church, one of the churches in town, to grow vegetables, and they then use those vegetables for the food pantry, which is again social services charge. That's what they do. So I did find documents back from the early days of the garden. I got a file folder from 2011. So that on the application for social services, it had said it's pre-typed in, not applicable for the fees. Not social service, or senior center.
I was going to say senior center went way back. Yeah.
Had no fee,
okay.
And I think there was a youth entity from one of the schools, and I think it was Upbeat, but I'm not positive. That also had a garden, and it appeared as though they didn't have a fee, but we haven't had them a garden in the last few years. Although social services did, I recently found out that they paid for the plot thinking they had to for a couple of years. I mean, it's nominal, but it's still part of their budget. You know, didn't know, just they got processed. And so the application that came in with fees, you know, everything counted up. So I talked to the finance director about it, and he suggested I just go to the Conservation Commission could determine whether yes, that is the policy and goal, or not. It wasn't something you needed to take to town council to waive the fee. It's the Conservation Commission that sets those fees.
Yeah, so, and I thought that might be
it doesn't make any sense to me that one department's charging another department to do something.
Right, and I thought that we probably had that somewhere in the policies,
on the application, not applicable or whatever.
Right,
it was on an application form for that garden plot.
But we might have we might have also voted on it a couple of times too. Yeah. But I thought we might have changed it. So maybe a motion to say that that says we're not sure, it could already be on the policy, you know, a policy, but just to cover it, you know, in case it's not, that the nonprofit. No, should we just name those three? The town. The town, yeah.
The town. I came up with a way to say it, last week, and it failed me today, but it was, you know, affiliated with the town of Berlin.
Yeah. Affiliated entities, or and any clarification could come to you if we find out.
So what does that mean? What does affiliated with the town mean? You like a town
department
entity? Okay, yeah, I'm totally down. Yep, I'm good with that. Yep, thank you.
So I guess that's it. Operated by the town, as opposed to, you know, I didn't, and that would be up to you if you want to say other nonprofits, but that wasn't my intent, was to ask you about those
I would stick with
departments within the town.
If you put nonprofits, I could start a nonprofit.
Right.
Say I don't.
Yeah, so town affiliated organization.
Agree, Rob.
Yeah. Are there nonprofits that have plots there?
I don't think so. No, at this time. But I don't know what has happened there.
But yeah,
there would be if we stopped charging it.
And you don't want everybody taking all the lot basis from you know
and
people who want.
And we're talking typically 1 or 2, I think, would be in a year.
What was the word?
They're not. These groups, senior center did it for a while. I don't think they've done it.
Right. The senior center gave their plot up a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That's actually when social services realized it.
Yeah.
And they're under the same department. They're both under the Parks and Rec department as far as their branches thereof. So you know, they then asked if they could have it. I think the high school had a plot, like I said, Upbeat, or
and that was Upbeat. That was Upbeat to the high.
And that's a high school.
You need an account? I remember
at one point, yeah, they
I can't remember what
they went at different levels, and I think that they did some donations at times too, and
and they might have donated to the food pantry because they are one of the substantial volunteer groups that helps with the food pantry. So perhaps again before my time. So, but at the same time.
So
So
I
I'm
get the
on this.
motion for town affiliated entities that,
Town
That-
departments? What town departments?
okay, departments. That the application fee would be waived. For,
I would actually not even say waive, but not be applicable.
okay,
Because
Yeah.
waiving of fees is something that the town council does, where
Does,
this
okay.
is, no, they just don't get charged, it's another department.
I second that motion.
so.
I second the.
No,
motion.
that wasn't my,
You were-
no,
you were
no,
talking about-
As
I don't think
chair,
I
he
can.
doesn't-
Motion.
Chairs do make motions, but it's
Yeah.
less proper for the chair to make a motion.
I'm just saying what-
I could try.
Okay,
All right, I'm gonna try. I make a motion that the Conservation Commission I have the word.
Something about not
Fees, not
applicable.
the
Yeah, because we were, let me go back. We were talking about, it's probably in there, but we want to affirm it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me use that word. Okay, so I make a motion that the Conservation Commission affirm that Town of Berlin departments will not be charged fees at the community for the community garden plots.
that sounds,
Okay. Couldn't say it twice,
that
so
sounds,
Marlo.
sound good for you,
I
Marlo?
don't think I could do it twice, Marlo.
That's why it's recorded.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do we have
yeah.
a second?
Second,
Second to
Carl Lewis, second.
Carl second. Okay.
Very good. All in favor?
I
Opposed?
Carl, are you in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Okay,
yeah.
there you go.
I heard him.
I didn't hear.
Very good.
Right.
And then the last item is I got, so Carol, our garden coordinator, asked that she be able to utilize what I deem beautification partners for the garden. She has a group that's from the church or something that's willing to help her with some of the planting of pollinator planting and some other items like around the perimeter of the garden fence. And local Girl Scouts and Kensington Garden Club. And that there's no objection to any group that somebody has helped them in the garden. No. Just confirming that that's not something that's an issue. She asked me to ask. I did not see that it was an issue, you know.
We don't need a motion.
I don't think we
I
need
don't
it.
think so.
I don't
I
think
just
so.
wanted
I mean,
to alert you and make sure that.
Right, the only thing would be in kind of make as long as what they're looking to do isn't, you know, is still consistent with.
Right, coordinated with the garden coordinator
Yes,
to
yeah.
make sure
Right.
that they're. It's a
Like
project.
yeah.
The project for the
it's
garden.
not like invasive plants.
Right,
Right. That's, you know, something, which, you know, they're not gonna.
Thought.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna sleep.
She said sunflowers, perimeter
Yeah.
garden fence, she had pollinators somewhere, I didn't
Yeah.
remember
Yeah,
reading
that sounds perfect.
and
Yeah.
some of the other cleanup that they might
Yep.
need, a little more brawn in there.
Yeah.
Then some of the gardeners are able to
Perfect. That's a good.
have
idea.
for themselves, and I saw it as a group can help out, or individual kids can help whoever they want to help out.
I'm gonna be a member of Kensington Garden Club next month. Maybe that'll be something.
There you go.
And I
Yeah.
would worry about it more, but I bet we're gonna hear if something goes wrong, Guy. If
Yes.
somebody puts some invasives in there or something that blocks off the light to different plots, we'll hear about it. And so,
That's the
Yeah.
problem with sunflowers, Carl.
right,
That's
exactly. Yeah, I know,
Unless
Mary
you kind
Catherine.
of
So
put the
that's kind of what I'm
lower-
worried. I'm worried about
Yeah.
unintended consequences. I don't
Oh,
think
yeah.
anybody's gonna like put anything
Yeah.
bad in there.
They
But
put them on the north side.
Mention that
or
to
something.
Carol.
I'm
Not,
assuming
you know, they probably
this
want to
person
have.
knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sunflowers, you know, you can do those
Yeah.
giant ones, 6 feet.
Well, that's what
tall.
I'm thinking. I would think that the gardener,
If they put them on the north,
Yeah.
Carol
north
knows
side.
that she, you know, wouldn't do that, but I don't know.
Good thought though, Carl, because
Yeah.
I know.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, and you know
They have
what?
the smaller varieties of those anyways.
This is pretty neat. In the last couple of years, you know, we worked so hard. You know, Karen, series of people to try to oversee and manage that, and how much more effective it is that they're taking care of it.
And that's the way it was set up.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
intention
Yeah.
originally.
Yeah.
Our office was getting more, and actually,
Yeah.
when we get complaints from the gardeners, our department staff has been advised, you know, don't call Carol first.
Yeah.
And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. We do have a couple of gardeners who prefer our phone number. But we're, you know, directing them, you know, at least send it through the Hatchery Brook, I don't know exactly what it says, but it's something like Hatchery Brook Garden email address is linked so that I get copied on it. If somebody uses that email address, it goes to me, Fran, our administrator, and Carol. So we get what Carol deals with for the most part, but that is on the sign, and it's been on the sign for years, that email address. So we made sure, I think it was 2 years ago, I made sure it actually worked because I didn't know it was there. Like, anybody know where this email address goes? Oh, I don't. And evidently they were coming to me. I just didn't know, you know, because they come to me at my address. I don't see that it was addressed to that group. So we do get those, but Carol is added to that list.
Good.
And I always, every time we mention the garden, I want to give a shout out to Steve Wood, because he is, he's actually has a garden plot now. And so he's there often as well to oversee things, and in real time, sometimes knows if there's an issue. He did say he was away and unable to join tonight, but he had a concern that they may need another battery. So I would ask that if you guys want to authorize the battery purchase if necessary, that would be great. There is money in the account to cover that.
That's what I was going to ask. We still have money.
Yes, a garden bill, because we just got in all the garden fees for this year as well.
Yeah.
So, but there is. So I would appreciate you considering garden supplies as necessary, but particularly a battery if necessary. He was going to give me that information last week, but yeah, he was called away unexpectedly.
What's the best way to do that? Is it to, I mean,
You want to be specific?
because sometimes if I recall correctly, that it's usually like X amount or the particular item.
So I would suggest that you authorize the purchase of
second band.
the battery. We have more than one battery.
Oh, you do?
So yeah, it's a
Okay.
replacement battery. Funds be set aside for an additional battery at the time purchase is necessary. Because waiting a month if the pump isn't working is a very long time for the gardeners to wait for the pump to work. So I would ask that you request the funds be set aside for a replacement battery.
Do we need, how much, do you know how much they are?
I don't recall. I can go back a year in minutes, but I think it's a couple $100. I don't think you need the exact amount because it'll be, we'll get a bill that goes with it that will show that it is the battery at that time, including the shipping or whatever added fees get into it when he orders it.
So
and those go with the invoice.
Yeah, so we should do, for replacement battery.
So I'll make a motion
anticipated to be needed during this season.
Motion for the Conservation Commission to approve funds or make available funds for a replacement battery. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Replacement battery for the community garden.
Yeah.
For the running of the pump. And I don't think anybody's gonna steal our, don't put this in, I don't think anybody's gonna steal our money, but should we say not to exceed X number of dollars or?
Well, this is my question. It's like, how much does it cost and how much do we have, you know?
Flush.
Yeah, like I said, we just brought in all of the. I'm sorry, I was looking for them. I'm looking for the.
I don't know, I mean, I don't think he's
item.
gonna go and spend $10,000 to go.
No,
and
no.
I
buy
think it's a
batteries.
couple of hundred, like you said, a couple of hundred, but.
You don't want to put a limit on it and then find out. that-
Right.
Right.
No.
Yeah, it's $10 and couldn't do it because.
Yeah. Right.
Well, we purchased that in the past.
Right,
I-
that's what-
You know, I just can't remember the exact.
Yeah,
number.
neither can I. Yeah, that's
I'm
that's
looking to see it.
because that's why I said right at the beginning, like, how do we word that? Because usually it's
I'm sorry. I didn't look.
well, we could say,
You want to do it, can it wait till
Revisit
next
this
week?
visit.
Would be too late then.
yeah, let's try to do it tonight. We know funds for replacement battery.
Did we say similar, not to exceed $300?
Or similar,
Or should it exceed $300? He has to contact Michael.
Yeah.
Di Lorenzo.
or the same type of battery or similar battery.
So-
As long as money,
I'm sure it costs more
as
this
long
year
as
than it
long
did
as money,
last year.
So
the money is available,
Right.
enough
Last-
money is available in the fund.
Last year it was 250.
Okay,
And
So not
that
to
might have
exceed-
been for two batteries. That may have been for two.
for
Oh,
two, right?
two.
Yeah, to replace two batteries.
I'll see
that
if
will
the
hopefully be
area,
approved.
someone says next conservation minute and the amount not to exceed $250.
And that was for two of them. So you know what?
Two
Just in case,
batteries.
let's just put 250 in and
Yeah.
then we know that
In case
covers.
there's two that are going.
Right,
Up
and
to two
if two,
batteries.
and if
We
two
have
don't-
enough, correct?
Yeah,
99.
I mean, how many
Sure
plots, what do
that-
the plots cost? I always forget. I know they're different.
no, that's fine.
Depends on the size, right?
Maureen.
Or Maureen.
All right, let's,
I have no idea.
let's,
do it.
if we can,
We'll take it out of Carl's pocket.
yeah, if we can reword it and just say maybe funds for
Ah.
replacement batteries.
Okay,
As you know, that as needed for this season,
yeah.
not to exceed $250.
Did you get that?
I did.
That way,
That sound okay, Carl? All kidding aside?
Yeah, no, I'm good with that. I had no idea what they would cost. Stuff costs a lot more than it did a year or 2 years ago, and I just
Yeah.
didn't know if we had the
You want
money.
to say not to exceed? Did you put that in?
Yeah.
250?
And if it looks like it's gonna, we can send out,
Yeah.
contact somebody.
Yeah.
Michael.
So I wrote, Commissioner Ramsey made a motion that the Conservation Commission approve funding for an additional battery replacement not to exceed $250 without additional.
That works.
Okay.
And you can even put battery and then an S in parentheses, batteries.
Yeah.
Should it be needed.
So it appears from one of the last budget reports that there's upwards of, or about $4,000 in
That's
the,
okay.
in the account.
Maybe put 300. Are you guys okay? I'm kidding aside too. Just
I mean, if they need
Because
two,
they
then
buy
let's
two.
do 300.
Yeah.
And then we know that.
And then he'll let somebody know
Yeah,
right away.
yeah.
And like I said, we have to submit the invoice
Right, it's-
with the actual purchase.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
it's all laid out there.
Yeah,
Okay.
So we're amending it to
300. I think that sounds good.
Yeah.
And so with that change, that your motion.
Yes.
And did we have a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Too late.
Yeah, I
Too
beat
late
you,
now,
Carl.
Carl.
Yeah. All right, any other comments on that?
No.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
There we go.
They'll appreciate it because they
No,
are,
you know,
there is an issue with the water. rate. Just don't know
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
So,
so, and once again, just like something nice to try to be a little proactive.
Yeah.
Struggling and, all of
and a
us.
month in growing time is a long time.
Yeah,
Luckily, at this time of year, we usually
Is the
get
garden
rain.
open now?
Yes.
So it is
Open April
open,
1st.
and they can go in and plant
Yes.
cool weather crops.
Yeah.
So,
And some of them have just nearly started prepping
Yeah, right.
and cleaning up.
Me too, in my garden.
But they can't get in until they unlock the gate.
Yeah.
well, next time Steve's around, might be a good thing to just talk about, like maybe the last 2 or 3 seasons and what was needed during those seasons. Because if we've got like that kind of budget on there, maybe this is what we should be doing as the season starts up, and saying that for the what seems to be like annual or you know regular or something maintenance kind of items, and approve something, whatever it is, you know, maybe it's $1,000 for this type of stuff to be bought, and then they don't have to, at least on our end, we're not holding it up.
Right. And then
As it goes on, you know, and
So
if
the gardeners would
they need a
appreciate
battery
having
every
the
year,
season,
if they
you know,
need,
they put the money up.
yeah, if they need something else, there are a couple other things that they need every year. And let's just, you know, the money's there for it. They're gonna end up getting it in the end. Why not just approve a seasonal?
Those things where you don't want to warehouse them or store them.
No.
Without
Right.
use. So, yeah,
But
I
they-
mean, just to
but
give
they-
the authority.
But
Yeah.
it gives them the authority to on our end,
Right.
you know, so that they don't have to wait that month or something to come to us and then go.
Especially for maintenance items.
Yeah,
If
Like
it's,
discretionary
you know,
funds.
something
yeah,
that,
they can
you know, if they
Yeah.
want to upgrade a fence or do something along those lines, I
Yeah.
think those items should,
Yes,
modifications should come to you guys, just like the debris bins they put in last year, came to you. However, replacement parts is maintenance.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
All right.
I'm sure Steve will.
And then we're back to the
PZ
applications. PZ applications.
Okay, so this first one we have is a property on Willowbrook Drive. It was owned by Karen Pipe Company, and they sold it last year. So they used it for outdoor storage. We're not sure if that was ever, we're looking into whether that was ever sanctioned or not, but regardless, they no longer own it. And so Karen Pipe Jacking is to the north, I guess you'd say, and then there's another building to this side. This is vacant. They have applied to put a fence around the property. However, we have already determined that wetlands, it's in the flood zone.
Yeah.
It has an upland review area as well, and that it's very likely that they will run into some obstacles with regard to the flood zone and the wetlands, with regard to putting fencing around the property. However, it is still a pending application because we haven't talked it through with them at this point. So
they own both on both sides.
So I'm bringing it up on the GIS as well. Karen no longer owns it, just so it is a separate parcel now. And so the outdoor storage, to the best of my knowledge, would no longer be allowed there. Again, we were doing a zoning analysis on it actively this week. But there is,
What kind of fence?
let me screen share so Carl can see what I'm doing. Hold on 1 second. I just have to get my bearings here, screen share. And that way he can see what we're talking about. Okay, you got that, Carl?
I do, thank you.
So this is the property we're talking about, 0 Willowbrook Drive. It's owned now by an LLC. This is Karen Pipe Jacking, who used to own the property, but the application is to fence this property. Now it looks there as though they're saying they have a leg that goes there.
Right.
Which The GIS shows they don't, so item number 3 on our zoning analysis list. But again, like I said, we do have a problem both with the use of the property right now. We haven't determined whether or not what their use is going to be and whether or not they have authorization for that or will need a site plan approval for that from the Planning and Zoning Commission. If the intent is merely to secure a vacant property, then that's, which is what it's authorized to be as far as I can tell at this point, it's authorized to be a vacant property. Again, it's this property here. Then, you know, the fence application would be a site plan application to the Planning and Zoning Commission, which they've applied for. And will, and if you guys have comments, we'd appreciate it. Again, Planning and Zoning Commission cannot decide the application until wetlands has, if it requires wetlands review. So but they have not applied for wetlands review. So it may end up being a refused application, or it may just end up pending until they do a review and determine whether or not they'd allow a fence either.
Yeah, I would hope not.
Is that what their chain link fence?
Interesting though.
So if it's a vacant property, there's stuff on it.
Addition of roughly 350 of black commercial grade chain link fencing with gates to property as shown on map. Dylan was doing the analysis, not me, but again, and I'm looking at the extent of the property, and that doesn't match what we have on the GIS as the property lines. I'm thinking that this property may have lopped off a piece without us knowing it. Or it's just, or the GIS is incorrect. GIS is not 100% accurate.
Well, yeah, because they're showing that they go all the way out to Deming, that they have a frontage on Deming.
They do?
They're on the
there.
and
Okay.
then the survey that they had done sent into us.
My kind of comment, get started when you guys go it out, but to protect a vacant property, I don't know how, you know, like that you really need to go to the edge of the property, which is in the wetland and crosses the stream a couple of times.
My concern,
and
right.
putting the fence zigzag across the actual stream and
everything.
yeah. So that I would think that they should be talking about a fence that does not.
Hey, Guy, do we have a quorum if I leave? Because there's a brush fire that I have to go to.
Oh,
No.
yes.
No? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I gotta go put out a fire, I think.
Yes.
Okay, goodbye.
Okay.
All right.
Be safe.
That there's really, you know, we have a concern about like a fence on both sides and in the wetland and over the stream and everything. And there's probably no real reason to put the fence. Put the fence. Yeah.
Well, again, their property is different. See, here, I'm picturing they could do here, but they're saying that they. If I'm reading,
no,
If I going the wrong way
down.
They're coming this way. Oh, yeah.
Here. I don't think it's going on that side at all. There is a chain link fence and a gate there that exists on this property.
Okay.
For the one
So
behind
this appears to be the fence that they're proposing to here. And they're claiming there's a chain link fence going there. Well, the surveyor shows, so the surveyor shows existing fencing. And it looks to me as though they are proposing fencing.
Well, what if the fencing wasn't supposed to be there in the first place?
I'm going to get a highlighter.
I'm just wondering if there's not supposed to be any, if they put up fencing that shouldn't be there. And then,
Well, zoning will have to come in and figure that out.
If that's what, right, but
agree with you.
but you know what, it
Yeah.
looks like here then, with what she's saying,
And I'm sorry, I didn't.
it
look at
doesn't
this.
necessarily show the fencing
If
there.
you're not gonna run a fence to the wetlands, then
Yeah,
I
then,
don't think that's an issue
then we
for us.
don't have any kind of issue with it.
Right.
Looks like they wanna meet the existing fence there.
Go to there.
Here's the gate.
Yeah.
I'm going with what they drew on top of the plan. Now, why you have somebody bother tied to existing fence, so there's an existing chain link that goes there. It only goes to here. And they're going here. Why you wouldn't have your surveyor at it? It's proposed, I don't know. So and it says only 300 in the application,
so-
it says 350 feet, so
So then,
this is, what was this, 125?
Yeah.
If that's 125, that's probably another 150. So you're up to 3.
Yeah.
Oh, that's more than 350, so,
Okay.
but, so it does appear to be a back end.
and they don't, and they don't close
Said
it up.
to me, I thought they were
Yeah.
closing the property, but I guess they're.
Okay.
It
Secure.
says
And
there's a
the-
brook, so if there's a brook and it's wet enough, they thought maybe they figure nobody's gonna go there.
And that's all back here.
So
You
the
can
way
see
it
all the-
reads,
the-
right,
The
these are
tree in the dark, yeah, it's all. it's all
addition of
yellow.
roughly 350 feet of black commercial grade chain link fencing with gates, 2 of them. The property is shown on the map. So one, we have the issue with where the property line is versus
Right,
whether that property, whether there was a legitimate transfer of property. And whether or not security would be allowed, you know, but I don't believe zoning would preclude
Right.
securing of a property.
yeah,
Yeah,
However,
just making sure. before you
floodway,
repeat it again.
flood zone regulations.
right, so as long
Because
as,
it will clog debris in it.
right, that, so this, you could still have a problem here. With the flooding that happens, because that's what I was gonna say for, if there was a fence anywhere along there, part of that,
Right.
I know how Willowbrook floods. My time
So
working at DEP.
let's put that down.
And that, you know, the fence is gonna collect debris.
Which is
and-
why
and-
wetlands
and then-
needs to
and
be-
then-
Wetlands, it's the,
So
The general
I
housing
want to paraphrase you. You
has
started
already-
by saying that the concern was that the fence would go through the wetlands.
But it doesn't appear that that's the
But
case.
do we want to say that though, that our concern is if it does, because the map is wrong. I mean, somebody's
Yeah.
wrong here anyways.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
concern would
And-
be if the fence
Because
extended
the
into
fence-
the floodplain and or the wetlands. And I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, but that's, because I think that this gate at the. what would that be?
Well, the bigger
That'd be
question
the-
seems to be the flood zone.
Right,
Right.
this is the one that goes near into, actually
so this is
basically
our
into the
flood,
wetland area,
the
so.
whole. Again, it's the GIS, it's not 100% accurate as to where those limits are, and they may actually be on here. Is the wetland limit?
Well, go for the wetland soil.
Wetland soil is on there.
Yeah, but these are not accurate.
Oh, no,
No,
These can be,
Can you just
These-
click it though, just so we can
If
see?
you can go to wetland soil on the.
oh, no, there wasn't, none appeared.
Oh, these are all saying they're not there?
So
Oh.
no, that's,
Okay, so-
that's flood.
Okay.
Oh.
Wetlands is over here, but we know this is a stream,
Stream.
Right, okay.
so it's a little,
It's off.
again, the GIS is not usually made. The wetlands are not based on
Yeah,
mapping.
but it's fair to
They're
say
based on
that the soils underlaying the stream and adjoining the stream are hydric.
Which is why I said,
Yeah.
you know, don't come on the map, and the GIS for that line. The
So let's-
GIS gives
Yeah,
those,
so let's.
they're
talk
in the
about-
area.
Yeah, let's talk about wetland and flood zone then.
Get
Sorry.
any of that, Marlon?
Gee,
Just read back what we've been mumbling about.
Concern would be if the fence extends into the flood zone or wetlands.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's it?
That sound okay?
Yeah. It seems like a lot of things have to happen first because the
I
property
just like,
lines aren't
we're
even.
trying to make a comment each time, and I agree,
Yeah,
remember
no,
we brought that
right,
up
yeah,
a few months
yeah, I
back.
like that.
So I think that's good, it's on the record that that's our concern, if it doesn't go in there, then it's not our concern.
Yep.
Okay. Much for that. And then this one is also, and I can get bigger notes if I need to, is a subdivision to the proposal to the south of Sage Park at Wilkes Pond and Somerset Drive. It's been a property that was divided or was so we're working out some legalities with regard to access, etc. And what the developer is proposing is to straighten out the line with Sage Park and gain access from Wilkes Pond so that they can actually get on the property. Right now, the house, the existing house, our house that's there, actually crosses town land to get in, but it would ultimately become a town road. So the issue is more just look at it, not for where the zoning, the planning and zoning legalities of it, but development of this parcel. And I'll get to where the parcel is again on the big screen so that you guys can all see where we're talking about.
Yes. To that one now, whatever from there. That's all.
I have an address.
Yeah, trouble with that.
I'm just assuming that it's clear. Seems like it's elevation there. That's a big slope. It's way from the backside of the Sage, it goes way down.
So you have Somerset
We were looking
Drive
at fields.
comes on the east side of the property,
Mhm.
Canterbury Lane, all that. Wilkes Pond comes up on to the east of it, and this is where the access point is. This road that starts as Jarvis Lane off the Berlin Turnpike just south of Sage Park doesn't actually go through. It is a road, or rather it's
It's a paper road, on paper.
Yeah, it's paper, it's not. I can't get it to light up, which shows that it's paper. Here's Sage Park. You can see this is that little triangle of this lot that extends into Sage Park. So the proposal is to get that line straightened up where this would revert back to the town, but then that they would be able to get access into the property.
So
Here, in order to
they're gonna go down here.
They have an existing driveway into this house that cuts across what is in fact Sage Park, this corner of Sage Park. So they want to develop a road into here. We have to work on that.
And they're gonna give this part back, in other words, and take this little bit.
That's the proposal.
But they're not gonna put this road in.
No,
Okay.
no, it's to come up Wilkes Pond, extend Wilkes Pond. I assume they'll keep the same, they're proposing the same road to continue Wilkes Pond up this way into this piece of property. It's right here. Again.
that's a nice size pool.
Again, it's that property that has a couple of little jogs. They originally,
What's the part
years ago, I recall them lopping this one off, or they were trying to lop this off and couldn't because they otherwise didn't have frontage. And right here on Somerset is where that parcel by the previous owner frontage, or the owner, again, he still owns it, I believe, or the estate of does, is the frontage they have now. So them obtaining frontage here, we're working on it. But overall, it's otherwise, if he was to propose,
He's got
5
5
lots, I believe it's 5 lots. 5-lot residential subdivision with a street.
One of them's on Somerset.
Yeah, one would be.
And the
over
5th lot
here,
being where the old house is.
I believe so.
Yeah,
So
one
you
else.
see the lot
Yeah.
down there?
Yeah, here's the existing house here.
I don't
And
have
then-
it,
and then,
they didn't send it
yeah.
digitally, so I can't
Yeah.
pull it up on the screen, but I can get a bigger.
Yeah, here are the two buildings,
Big map.
and then the house going in, so they're gonna take those. Take those down.
But they want the access to get in from
Wilkes Pond.
Wilkes Pond.
Well, Fran left it right there for me to grab. She knew I didn't get it. I just didn't have it with me.
I know that the other spot behind the other fields drops way down. That one I'm not as familiar with, but looking.
You mean like that, where that
it
little
looks like
triangle
they're
part?
gonna have to build like
Yeah.
30 feet or so.
Here's a road. And what's you want to be in the same direction, you want it probably flip it. Sorry.
Right. Yeah.
So we can make it consistent for everybody.
Right.
Somerset over here, we got one.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
in here,
Okay.
Okay.
and then
Access in here.
the lots, 1, 2, 3, 4,
And then,
cul-de-sac, cul-de-sac here,
right.
and the one lot would have
And then
access
one lot,
from Somerset, not this side. It's like a detention basin. That would be in this area. I can bring up the existing. Grading.
Grading. So, yeah, I mean, that's gonna be your biggest thing there, I think. Because it looks like, to me, a decent amount of fill in there.
Looks like this is not so much.
Pools
Oh,
at
there
those
we
other
go.
houses.
It's 180. I mean, they're not putting houses right here, but the road is coming in.
184 to 140.
Yeah. 135. Yeah.
84 is up here.
Yeah.
Going down to 140 where the field, it looks like it's a field, right? Right there.
That's about where the houses are off of the road is staying up on the 145 line or above, between the 174 and the 145, and then the houses into there, it looks like.
Oh, do we have an elevation for the houses?
The
The spot
existing,
elevation?
2 houses?
the existing is 140. In
So
between
that's this
the
one right
second
here.
and third, yeah.
And what do they say? Do they have a elevation?
I think that's 150 is here.
Basement floor 143, first floor 152.
Is that wooded on that side maybe?
Over here?
Yeah,
I think
Yeah.
it is.
So
I'm
they
not
just
sure.
if it stays wooded, they won't have to fill maybe, I don't know.
well, no, see, it looks like all these lines
Would be new grades.
are new grading.
Oh, new brick.
Dark
Oh,
grade,
okay.
dark is the new grade.
I didn't
Here's
know
all
that. I
your
understand.
your existing.
So to regrade, they'd be taking away.
Well, there's no
Established
wetlands, there's no
wood.
wetlands or flood areas, right?
Good question.
Again, that would be on
Yeah.
the map as opposed to. on the
Right, I don't
roads.
see anything now.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Oh, yeah, wetlands that's the wetlands that just loaded. So all of Somerset Drive is wetland. So it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay, but not. Again, I don't know.
And not really, actually, this house ends up being the closest to it when it's on some side. So really, the biggest thing.
Will it cause a problem for these houses?
For-
I think that would be the other thing we'll look at as far as grading. But
Right,
the
I mean,
existing
for us-
houses and impact to
I don't
them.
see anything for us.
Other than
Concern about fill?
about about the, right, and I mean, without a wetland, without the stream there, it's minimal, but, you know, it's an awful lot.
It's an awful lot. Yeah, erosion
Sediment control is, it would be the, and they have, and they expect this to collect a lot, because this looks like a detention pond in here.
Right.
But yeah, I would think that, you know.
Would that have to be maintained and to build around it? That detention pond?
Yeah, it's fine. So with a subdivision that has a detention pond, there's usually some maintenance agreements that are part of the proposal for the drainage system. The drainage system needs to be created now.
And they're going to raise up what they have. And
to me, so it will be entirely on the lot that's closest to Page Park lot. The detention pond would be on the lot that goes with the house that's put there. The detention pond
is going to be there.
That's where the and this is the easement that goes around it. With an access drive around the detention pond and a berm.
So I don't know if it's our purview or not, but you know, I'm always concerned that there was always like language in there about building to the existing contours or something, but there's a lot of fill. And that would, you know,
say something to that effect. So that, you know, the concern about the amount of fill that appears to be necessary,
and you know,
and then everything is mitigated to avoid erosion or something like that.
Which they'll say, you know, it's all going into there, and that's.
But then that falls to some other group other than us, I think.
Right. Yep. But this is the overflow out.
Right. So where's it going?
It just goes.
Well, into the wetlands.
Right.
Towards St. Park.
No, that's going. That's going towards the
right.
Somerset.
Oh.
I thought I had no area
where it's closer to.
No, I looked before to see if the where the lowest temperature goes.
Yeah, I kind of opened up the door out.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I think I've got sunburn and windburn.
No, it's a little bit better. It was actually hotter like 15 minutes ago.
So
what did you say about the sedimentation controls? Give me a facing. Anybody have anything?
Just that would be a, you know, with the amount of fill and everything that this, you know, sedimentation and erosion control for the site
properly mitigated,
right? And that the detention pond is really designed
and maintained in perpetuity.
Was it typical that you know, that there's actually the sediment is removed after the area is developed and everything stabilized? So you actually, I mean, I know what I see. But I'm just wondering if, you know, if the wording is such that, you know, you basically have to clean them out.
Yeah, there's usually wording in their agreements for the subdivision that get vetted by our town engineer and corporation council to make sure that the maintenance plan is a viable one.
Yeah. Because I mean, most of the ones I see have been the way that they are for 30 years.
Yeah. Well,
and have trees growing in them, you know.
So some of them, I'm familiar with a couple that the town will ultimately take control of once the subdivision is finished. I don't know if that's always the case. I'll have to.
Yeah.
If the town, if the easement is always to the town for maintenance, or if the easement is to the property of that lot, then they end up with that responsibility. By the lot limit, but I speak to it.
I think it's a real hodgepodge out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really can't tell. Maybe and might be able to get to a street view.
But yeah, it's a tough thing because it's like you don't want to have the town be responsible in a sense for all of these things.
Right.
But yet, if they're not, then
Nobody's gonna follow, yes.
yeah,
40 years from now,
Right.
nobody's gonna remember there
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
retention pond there.
and then there's a big flood and it has no capacity left in it.
Mhm.
Geez, why is the downstream place get flooding and stuff?
Development. Wow.
So it looks like it's this right
Yep.
here.
Yep.
You can actually see the shape.
So there'll be a house in that one that. upper
Who's
left.
maintaining that now? I mean, that looks like a field.
Yeah,
Somebody has
they
to-
must be haying it.
Must be mowing.
She's
it,
gonna, hey, yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
So that road is here.
Check
Into
that
this
out.
house. Alright.
and that is a big slope because that baseball field. That's a big hill in the outfield.
Yeah,
Yeah,
going down,
right.
goes down.
It goes on the baseball side, it's up.
Yeah, it goes up from the
Right,
baseball.
go-
Yeah, so then it's
Down to
Down.
The great sledding hill team
Yeah.
hit the fence. I learned that when we were going down the hill, with the kids and sled. I'm like, there's a fence there. We're gonna hit that.
yeah.
I'm like, whoa, turn over, tip it over, tip it over.
And there's all trees there too.
So it is
Yeah.
well wooded.
Won't be when they're done.
Yeah, it looks as though the property line
Right, because they're gonna,
is this side of the trees. So that
right,
would
so
not-
they're gonna that's where all this is
Yeah.
gonna be regraded. Yeah, but I don't know, as a commissioner.
Not really.
or- but-
That's another group, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Those people back there are gonna hate it.
Yeah.
That's privacy in the wooded area.
And they want to come in from, where do they want to add?
Where the pin is, that's where.
The road is coming in.
Okay, it's right there. huh?
Yeah. And then the fifth house is
But
in
then the other
that
house will be in that green area. that's
green, the
between
total
those
green
and stuff.
area.
Yeah,
So,
you have a road now, driveway that goes to this house,
Right.
and then one house roughly there. It's a little hard to
Yeah.
tell on.
And the
And then-
piece of land that they want to
GIS.
swap for, so that they
We
straighten
believe
it.
give
that
it
it'll
the-
be straightened out so that
Yeah.
they can
Straighten it
then
out.
get access. Whether or not that's doable,
Right.
they may, if they can't, if that
But that's what planning and zoning
isn't,
does.
it's the analysis I'm working on, we'll be working with the town attorney on, and then planning and zoning will ultimately, if legally it can be accomplished,
Right.
then we'll look to see whether or not it can, whether planning and zoning also goes for it. Otherwise, I think when this lot was split, and they were told they couldn't split this lot, it was with the assumption that the access, a road may eventually come in through here to get lots.
But they don't want to do that. They want to use that piece as a lot, right?
So if they
coming
were
the
gonna
other
do
way.
that, they lose a lot.
They would lose a lot.
Right.
Okay,
I
but then they
think-
could,
So
I
they,
think you could configure it the same way if they were gonna.
right. But then, if that being the case, they could probably preserve that piece of woodland, right? If they came in off of Somerset, maybe?
Somerset.
it's like they got a ATV
They want 5.
trail there or whatever, little race course.
Where?
Right about where
Where the cursor is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See that? Yeah.
And what's the
I bet
benefit?
they do. yeah.
What's the benefit to the town of acquiring that triangular piece of ground?
Nothing probably. But the only
I
thing
think
that I
that,
would say is that it
I
gives
mean,
you a straight line.
It's square,
Yeah.
it could
It's a
potentially
neater-
square
it's
out
a-
the
they're
field,
just
but
trying to make a trade. They want that little piece down there to get in, access. They say, oh, well, we'll give you that.
Oh, they're gonna give you a triangle.
Right, which you can do nothing with, I'm sure.
Although, you know, it does buffer, you know, it protects the park. So it makes for a
Well, it's pretty.
a deliberate lot.
I got it.
Organization,
Yeah.
which
And it
is
makes,
not, it's not undesirable necessarily. It may not have any value, or it may. Again, that's partially what.
And actually adding to that Whispering Brook with the road going in further, does that hurt anything? Does that, I'm sorry, does that really hurt anything?
Well, again, it's part of the park now, so whether or not it can be accomplished.
Oh, they want that little piece, and they want,
okay,
got it.
So
What's the
part
trading triangles.
Right.
So
again, actually, didn't you
it's
see
not
some?
gonna be that.
Didn't you actually say that the houses, the driveway, that house is actually on the parkland also?
Yes.
So something
It already
slipped by.
Well, the house is in the driveway.
Yeah, the driveways, so the same.
Yeah, that's the driveway.
Right.
And it's been there, I believe, that's centuries old.
Yeah, it could be from before the park.
But
Well,
the town
probably.
has to decide too, I guess, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, you said that
Just a
that
little.
would become a regular town road. Afterwards, so.
You could use this as a geometry lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Take a whole semester.
1924 is
The house.
what they're. That's what the assessment card
right.
says, whether that's
Way before
accurate or not, but it's before zoning, it's before, probably before Sage Park existed.
Yeah, before Berlin Turnpike.
Well, I don't know when the Berlin Turnpike was there.
No, it wasn't.
Before 1924?
No, I'm thinking it came in, what, maybe late 20s, early 30s?
No kidding.
Yeah. I mean, there might have been something there before.
I thought there'd be
Turnpike
a
itself.
road. It had to be a road, right?
Yeah, there's a road that goes back. Yeah.
But not as we know it.
I'd have to look again.
Huh.
I was looking at some of the earliest USGS
Right, yeah,
topos and
exactly.
stuff. They have 1880 something.
Oh, really?
Is the earliest, yeah.
Well, I used
So
to-
I can't say that the turnpike was there, but I think that there was.
So compact.
Yeah, there was.
I used to love looking at some of that 1930s aerial photography.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's yeah, I was just looking at something out. For another one of Maureen project. For another commission. Oh, I take it back. That one's an inland wetland.
Not to me yet. Maybe coming to me soon.
Okay, do we have any comments on this or?
I mean, other than you said about erosion and, you know, and how much the slopes,
And the maintenance.
maintenance of the yeah.
Pensions.
Right, any other commissioner comments?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Longer read.
My apologies for coming late.
Well, I'm glad that you came.
I was out doing yard
Yes, we
stuff,
needed
and
you.
all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, we got a meeting today.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing. I didn't like what time.
Can you just
Is everything okay with Michael?
Oh, so red from the
Guys?
heat.